DonInLondon, hello. April 4th, 2009. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, or addiction to both substance and behaviour. My substance in the past was alcohol, so I'm a recovering alcoholic, and my behaviour trying to be whatever I thought I ought to be, and probably running on fear, brave facing and ego. And these days I prefer just a bit of courage, faith and confidence to make the day work. And as those who are tuned in know, my videos cover how fellowship helps me. That's the AA fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous fellowship, helps me stay sober one day at a time. And at the beginning of every meeting I go to, and hopefully I get to a meeting every day, just to settle me down and be just normal and keep on living, a preamble is shared, and the preamble goes like this, and it helps me slow down into the moment of now doing these videos. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And, you know, the AA fellowship, I don't speak for it, never can, never will. And as with any sort of society or fellowship, it's forever changing, because the constituent parts, which are just human beings, are forever changing. Some people are very new to the idea of sobriety. Some people have been around decades and have a lot of wisdom, experience, strength and hope to share of how to remain sober one day at a time. So one of the challenges that one of the co-founders suggested for AA and the fellowship was how it would change as society, civilization changes. And I guess if a thing ain't broke, we don't want to fix it. And sometimes we can wonder whether or not we need to be more modern in our outlook, but actually, do we need to be? And so far I haven't found a good reason why. I don't necessarily agree with everything that is suggested for fellowship and keeping sober, but I make the best of what is, and it helps me definitely be a part of life, to be included and not excluded, to understand what it is to love other people and be loved by other people, and to have improving choices based on sobriety rather than a desire, or rather a need or an addiction behaviour to try and fix myself. And one of the things I know over the last few years is AA fixes nothing. Actually what we learn is to heal the wounds that have been created by our addictions, and then to move along gently, finding a better way, sober, one day at a time. So a one-day program, 12 steps of action for the individual and 12 traditions to hold the fellowship together. And that's how it works. It's simply that, one day at a time. So April, in this book, this is one of the literature books, Daily Reflections, gives me a one-pager every day to consider as I go through the day. And it's good to actually do a bit of meditating first thing in the morning. And generally I start off as, how am I feeling, why, what can I do? How am I feeling this morning? Pretty good actually. Life's been okay. Why? In the company of good people. And what can I do next? Go to a meeting. Yes, at lunchtime where I'm making tea. I'm doing a bit of service. So for me today, looking at the daily reflections, and it's 12 steps, 12 months in this book, so April is much to do with step 4. And maybe I'll just share what step 4 is in this 12 by 12. It's one of my little it's one of my reference books actually, but it's not just a reference book, it's a living book. It shows me how to live a bit better each day. And it says about step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And why on earth would we want to? Well, here it goes. How instincts can exceed their proper function. Step 4 is an effort to discover our liabilities. Basic problem of extremes in instinctive drives. Misguided moral inventory can result in guilt, grandiosity or blaming others. Assets can be noted with liabilities. Self-justification is dangerous. Willingness to take inventory brings light and new confidence. Step 4 is the beginning of a lifetime practice. common symptoms of emotional insecurity are worry, anger, self-pity and depression. Inventory reviews relationships. Importance of thoroughness. So part of April then in this is really an examination of our assets and liabilities in terms of our personal attributes, qualities, knowledge, skills, and asking ourselves, are we making the most of what we've got? And are we in balance? Are things in balance? Or are we going to extremes in our behaviour, trying to fix problems which we create of our own? So April 4th in the daily reflection sort of enhances that a little bit. Crying for the moon. This very real feeling of inferiority is magnified by his childish sensitivity, and it is this state of affairs which generates in him that insatiable abnormal craving for self-approval and success in the eyes of the world. Still a child, he cries for the moon, and the moon, it seems, won't have him. It goes on to say, while drinking I seemed to vacillate between feeling totally invisible and believing I was the centre of the universe. Searching for that elusive balance between the two has become a major part of my recovery. The moon I constantly cried for is, in sobriety, rarely full. It shows me instead its many other phases, and there are lessons in them all. True learning has often followed an eclipse, a time of darkness, but with each cycle of my recovery, the light grows stronger and my vision is clearer. And for me, the cycle of renewal is really rather much a daily basis. So it's incremental, it's mini challenges, it's small things made big as our wisdom grows across a period of time of sobriety. And no longer having to be either insignificant or the centre of attraction allows us great opportunity to find balance somewhere in the middle. And I'm smiling because, it's very difficult to find these balances when we have in our repertoire of misunderstandings a lot of fear, a lot of putting on of a brave face, and a lot of ego to cover up what we're trying to hide, and that's our fear. And I think that was me, and my way to deal with that was to try and excel in everything, try to be perfect, and the result was no. So what did I do? I found a way to take the edge off, and that was me drinking, in the end, 24/7. And when I look back at those dark times, I don't know how I made it through. And there were times also, in intensive care, and I didn't know whether I was going to make it or not. And what did I do? Isolate, not let people know where I was, until I thought I might make it. And those are very sad moments. Coming on to As Bill Sees It, this one, it's another 1 page a day, and it talks here about renew your effort, and it's about after a lapse, because nobody's perfect, and it took me a few goes to get to AA and then make sense of it. Renew your effort, page 68. Though I know how hurt and sorry you must be after this slip, please do not worry about temporary loss of your inner peace. As calmly as you can, just renew your effort on the AA program, especially those parts of it which have to do with meditation and self-analysis. Could I also suggest that you look at excessive guilt for what it is? Nothing but a sort of reverse pride. A decent regret for what has happened is fine, but guilt no. Indeed, the slip could well have been brought about by unreasonable feelings of guilt because of other moral failures, so-called. Surely you ought to look into this possibility. Even here, you should not blame yourself for failure. You can be penalised only for refusing to try for better things. And you know what? The prejudice that we have against ourselves because of the disease we have. We deny we have a disease in the first place, or an ailment or a mental illness. And the reason was why? Because other people don't want us to have it. But the worst part of that, and I've heard it said in meetings this week, is the prejudice against ourselves for being human and having something which we need to deal with on a daily basis. So stigma and a failure to understand that it is okay to be human can make it all the worse and more difficult. So when people slip or go out for more research or convincing that they are an alcoholic, all I would urge is to come back as soon as possible. Don't get overly guilty and realise that we are just human, making one day work. So when I say, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and keep it in the day, I get the wisdom to know the difference.